New 5-star leaks, a possible mr.reca release, Blade's biggest change ever, and Fate collab surprise. Version 4.3 might be insane, and yes, what I want to discuss today are some news that is going to be related to patch 4.2 of Honkai Star Rail. Be sure to watch this video until the end for some useful information. Alright, let's get this started. This information comes from Sakura Heaven and it's quite intriguing. According to them, a new remembrance character may be released in one of the upcoming patches. Only one though, we just don't know exactly when yet. From all the rumors, there were claims that version 4 might not include any remembrance characters at all, or at most just one. I can't find the original source anymore, but that's what I remember. This new character is rumored to follow the abundance path, meaning a sustained type remembrance unit. However, Sakura Heaven is not completely certain about the abundance part, so take that with caution. And as for your information, this character is not going to be Nihilix. We know that she has more spotlight in the current trail-based quest, but as for her banner, what her kit looks like, and even path and attribute is currently unknown. Since currently there is no longer the perfect candidate to fit this role, that's why they are also suggesting that this new remembrance unit is going to be mr.reca. What they are more confident about is that this will be a 5-star character from Planet Cardia, not from collaborations or other regions like Penacony. So that's why it is possible that mr.reca's release later will hugely tie to Planet Cardia, despite our previous encounter with him being located in Penacony. As always, this is still a rumor, so things could change. If it's really he is an abundance remembrance unit, it would likely function as a sustain. The question is whether it would power creep the existing characters. Personally, I don't think so. It probably won't replace the current options, especially in established remembrance teams. More likely it's designed either for a new team setup or as more flexible sustain option. And one important thing to note that being a new remembrance unit does not make this character a replacement for a caster with team members. In fact, Hyacinth is already a perfect sustain option for this team, and what's amazing about her is that she could also be a dependable healer for other archetype if needed. Back to the new remembrance member, it's also possible that they are going to be the new sustain unit for Ugliest team, for example. Or maybe even the best in slot support for Mayday, since he is currently the only 3.x characters whose performance I could say a little bit behind others. It actually makes more sense if this unit is going to be in Aglaya's team, who previously need Huahua for both sustain and the team's energy regen. She's going to have her buff soon, and what's great is that she is technically a free unit. These two huge things makes her existent, desperately needed for the new 2 Elation comps, be it Silverwolf 999 or even Evanesia. With Huahua now being more relevant to the new comps, mr.reca or whoever this new remembrance unit is going to be could potentially be her replacement in Aglaya's team. But still, this is just speculation only. We'll just have to wait and see whether this character actually becomes a real or if there was some mistake in the information. Now back to version 4.3, the banners are expected to launch around June 24 and will likely be split into 3 parts. Phase 1, Phase 2, and if we are following how the previous collaboration banner works, a separate and special Fate Stay Night banner will be running for the entire patch. From the current info, Blade SP is expected to appear in Phase 1. Meanwhile, the Fate collaboration will have its own dedicated banner featuring crossover characters, and it will remain available throughout the full patch duration, roughly 42 days. Phase 2 will most likely consist of reruns, not collab units, which is something a lot of people might misunderstand. Let's talk about Blade SP. He's rumored to shift from his previous destruction path into Nihility, which is a huge change. That likely means he will focus more on debuffs that maybe will reduce the enemy defense by a large amount, or even increasing their damage taken, or most likely damage over time effects rather than being a traditional main DPS. His element is still unknown, and in this game it's hard to predict based on appearance alone. If he does lean into Nihility, expect a more supportive or hybrid sub DPS role instead of a primary carry. That might disappoint some players, but it opens up interesting possibilities for team comps. Or plot twist, he's going to be the healer, since you know his immortality curse and stuff. Speaking of Blade's team compositions, there are some rumors from a reliable informant claiming that we are going to have a new team whose members will consist of 3 male characters. The characters mentioned include Aventurine SP, Asheville, and Blade SP. Apparently, their releases will be spread across multiple patches instead of being grouped together. So looking at this new composition, Asheville is no doubt going to be the sub DPS and at the same time, the support for his follow-up DPS. Thanks to his traces and some of his abilities, he can provide crit damage bonus for whoever is dealing the follow-ups, as well as contributing some damage since he can technically deal some decent damage too. So by observing the previous info that Blade is gonna be the Holiday and potentially won't be the main carry, he can complete this team by providing some debuffs to enemies. Of course, his key abilities are still unknown. Who knows, there's a chance that he actually might be the main DPS in this roster. So only Aventurine SP remains. I think there's a huge chance he is the main DPS that Asheville has been looking for. If this turns out to be true, then Aventurine SP is a follow-up attacker and this makes him a forever slave for follow-up archetype. However, Mortis responded to these 3 mail comms by saying the information is not fully confirmed. It might have been an older plan that's no longer being used, so once again, take this with caution. Now for the Fate collab, it's a bit more complex than expected. Initially, many thought it would arrive in version 4.4, but newer info suggests it's actually coming in 4.3. It also appears to continue the previous collaboration rather than starting something entirely new, still tied to Fate Stay Night. Interestingly, Lancer, who appeared before but was not playable, still has not been confirmed as playable this time either, despite already having a full model. That's a bit odd, but there's no solid info yet. This comes from Full Stop. They mentioned that in the Fate Collaboration Part 2, expected around version 4.3, the playable characters will be Gilgamesh and Rin. Unlike the previous mail teams, this information was not corrected by Mortis, so it's likely accurate. If true, Gilgamesh being summonable would definitely attract a lot of attention. Often portrayed as powerhouse, so he could end up being a hyper carry unit. Rin is also interesting. She might lean more toward support or a hybrid role. It's also interesting if she ends up as a support for Saber, since currently her performance is way far behind than Archer, who is a free unit. And the recent Sparkle buff and Yao are making him better in both dealing damage and broader team comms. So I personally would be okay if Rin is great support for Saber. If you are talking about Archer and Rin, there is no way she's going to summon Archer in the battlefield, since he is a separate playable character, so she will fight on her own this time. Rin technically has some special abilities since she is a magus that has a special power through gems. It's also quite interesting how Hoyo would execute this. What's more interesting is that we might end up getting another free 5-star unit. There's no further info to justify this, but well, let's wait and see. One more thing to keep in mind, during the last collab, beta footage was heavily restricted due to copyright concerns from the Fate creators. That will likely happen again, meaning we probably won't see early gameplay leaks or animations. Still, when they do release, the animations are expected to be top tier. So that's all from today's news regarding the info about 4.3 banners. As always, though some of these are confirmed from trusted informants, but still there's always a chance for this to be changed. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, turn on notification as well so you won't miss out on any of my style content. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye bye!